number one, CZ does not have to admit to money laundering. It is, in general, I think nobody wants to end their career in Binance, like such a great company, on that note and taint the name of cryptocurrency with. And CZ is a very strategic person. I've read his entire manifesto to his company. He wrote this manifesto for his own internal staff. And actually, I read it because my friend is the internal staff, but so I'm not supposed to read it. But after that, 1 month later, he put it out in public so that everyone can learn. He's someone who is very strategic. So I believe these steps of admitting guilt and going to jail is a strategic step for him as well. And think about it. If let's say the maximum jail sentence he would get is 1.5 years, according to the CoinDesk report. So
hello and salam alaikum everyone. Welcome to another episode of Takadao. Today we have a very special guest with us from Singapore, my homeland. So Wan Wei, and she says it's like, one way, like one way street, is a Singaporean tech futurist, author, and thought leader in the AI Web 3.0 and metaverse space. Passionate about open source movements and virtual beings. Now that needs a bit of unpacking. She's also the CEO of Ikigai Metaverse Collective, IMC. Ikigai Metaverse Collective counts NYSE listed Nutanix, Hitachi, Crypto.com, and nonprofit alliance Changemakers Exchange as some of the key partners and clients in its portfolio. Wan Wei identifies herself as a global citizen and has previously spent 4 years living in Europe and a year in Japan studying at the Waseda University. An experienced community advocate, Wan Wei has given keynotes at more than 100 reputable Web 3.0 metaverse and AI industry conferences and hackathons globally. She's also consulted with multiple thriving and successful metaverse projects. So thank you so much, Wan Wei, for joining us. That was the official biography. Tell us the unofficial story.
thank you so much for having me, like Morat and Shireen. Unofficial story. I don't think I have any unofficial stories already. Oh, but I did go to UAE in 2 years ago for JITEX 2022. Is it 2022? Yeah, JITEX 2022. And I've always found like Saudi Arabia like really interesting country. It's so interesting because on the bus to back from JITEX there was this huge jam, and I spoke to 4 gentlemen in like the checkered the garment
What
that
Morad is wearing.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So they were telling me that, oh, you can tell which part of UAE the person is from if you look at that. Then I was like, oh, okay, that's very interesting. So, oh no, I just wanted to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think from Southeast Asia coming to Middle East, you do see a lot of different things. And likewise, when people from Middle East go to Southeast Asia, they're also like, okay, this is very special, as I'm sure Morad will testify to.
Wow.
But anyway, so tell us a little bit about yourself, Wan Wei. How did you what is your background? I know you're Singaporean, which is, great because I am too. But tell us a little bit about you and your experiences. You call yourself a global citizen, and give us a little bit of insight.
Okay, sure. Thanks for the question. How I got involved in the blockchain space, for example, is because when I was doing my master's, I was in Finland for 4 years. So I did my master's there. And in 2014, my classmate wrote a master's thesis on Bitcoin. So I was the reviewer, thankfully. I got interested in Bitcoin. And in 2015, when I was writing a blog post on my blog, someone actually paid me in Bitcoin. So it was about Bitcoin faucet. And then, they offered to pay in Bitcoin. And I was like, oh, so it can be accepted as a means of payment. Now, I think some people don't really know that Finland is very big on open source because it's a welfare state. And Shireen, I think, maybe not for but I think you can understand where I'm coming from. Like, when I first go to Finland to stay, I thought Singapore was the best country on earth. Our propaganda, right? So I was like, why is Finland not like Singapore? It's like, how can they do a welfare state? Welfare states are evil, because they drain a lot on like taxpayers' money. And so the PAP side of the Finland political party will say that, they will quote Margaret Thatcher, like, oh, we should stop freeloaders and things like that. Then I went to Alton University, and the founder of Linux, which is open source software, he's an alumni there, right? So I was listening to his lecture, and he was saying that open source is a great thing because whatever we take, we aim to give back to the ecosystem. So that is the spirit of open source. Then I realized that, blockchain is all about open source. So it's great. And I found about Bitcoin, and I love the ideology of it. So I think that was pretty much how I got started.
Yeah, that is actually you are right. As a Singaporean, we've been conditioned and trained to think a certain way, and then when we leave and we see things differently, everything is very, very odd. And especially when it comes to this idea of open source and this, because Bitcoin was really a libertarian and a reaction to too much centralized control. So it's very strange because for me, Singapore is one of the early adopters of the crypto world. And I think from a Bitcoiner's perspective, it is the exact opposite of, it's not a country you would expect to adopt because it is so much controlled. I hate to say this. I love where I was brought up, and I know that I benefited a lot from it in so many ways. And I know, the whole political system is really a benevolent dictatorship. That's what I want to call it. But it actually worked out really well for the citizens. I don't think we are in a bad position at all. But at the same time, it's very centralized and highly controlled. How do we reconcile this, that a country like that would actually adopt crypto regulations and welcome it and actually nurture this ecosystem?
We'll be right back after the break.
Takadao brings you stories from around the world that will help you understand how crypto and Islamic finance can change our lives for the better. Subscribe and follow us to keep learning ecosystem.
That's a really great question. I think I like the way you say benevolent dictatorship because I think it applies to Monetary Authority of Singapore here. So as compared to Dubai, for example,
I wouldn't call it a dictatorship. I would call it a sheikhdom.
Why would you call it?
Sheikhdom, like a kingdom or something like that.
Oh, it's so interesting. Why would you say that? Oh, can you elaborate a bit more about it so I can understand?
Like having a Lee Kuan Yew, for example, and his descendant, having the father of the founding father of Singapore, has been actually giving his legacy and continue to give his ruling, I would say, party and even sons to follow on into his footsteps. So it's mostly like a prince or a king without being a king, and mixed into kind of a democracy type of things. But it's mostly like has been only him in power for the longest time, and his party. So I would say not a dictatorship because it's not a positive view of looking at it. I would say more like a kingdom, but not called a kingdom or sheikhdom. A little bit like Malaysia as well, So I think that's where he borrowed maybe these ideas of staying in power for the longest time for the benefit of the country. And we know that democracy is completely corrupted. You have a new clown taking office every 5 years, benefiting his clown. Using the power of being president to benefit his own interest, not the commoner interest. And we see that in Europe, we see that in the US, that it's the most corrupt system, to my own belief, in the world that they try to promote everywhere. But anyway,
let's steer this conversation back to crypto.
Okay.
So again, back to my question was what are your thoughts about crypto in a place like Singapore, where crypto is actually supposed to give us financial freedom, where in a financial system and a political system like Singapore, it's not compatible somehow?
I think that's a great observation, and to some extent, I agree. Back to the Monetary Authority of Singapore, right? It still plays a very paternalistic role towards people who buy crypto. having said that, this question, when you asked it, immediately I think of FTX, because FTX is invested by Temasek Holdings, or was invested by Temasek Holdings. And I think it's a very traumatizing event for a lot of Singaporeans who are first time into crypto. Give you an example. So in 2022, before the FTX crashed, right? A lot of first timers, because Temasek Holdings invested in FTX, they thought it's safe. They thought it's like a bank, but then the crypto bank, so they just put all their money there. That's the first thing. So when it crashed, it was traumatizing, and people were like losing higher digit 5-figure, 6-figure. And the worst part is that in Singapore, there's a Terra Luna very strong community. So in 2022, people who were affected by both events are quite high. And like when people ask, like, they as a newbie, they did not even buy Bitcoin, they bought Luna. So and Luna and UST. So when both crashed and they put their money in, they put their money in FTX, it was just horrible. So to some extent, yes, Singapore government is trying to protect the citizens from such things, but at the same time, they are not in the space. You know how crazy how crazy in general Web3 space is, right? Like 95% of the products and projects are probably rugs. And I think the worst part is when people do not even know that they are rugging. Like founders sincerely feel that they are doing the best, blah, 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 but actually the rug project.
Wow.
So it's this kind of things, right? That I think the government tries to protect us, but they can't really protect us because they are not in the space. It's like regulation will always have like 2 to 3 years lag behind the actual execution. So it's just too bad. I think as with all crypto projects, anyone that's in the crypto space, as long as you hold a lot of cryptocurrencies, we do have a duty to ourselves to monitor it ourselves and not trust any government. So back to your question, I think government is still doing their best, but it is the nature of the industry that people have to be aware. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's ironic because, as you said, Temasek invested in FTX, and you imagine that FTX was one of the more regulated projects that were out there, and yet somehow this happened, right? So you wonder, well, did the regulations really do anything in that respect? So they use FTX as an example of, well, we need more regulations. But the funny thing is that they are the poster child of a regulated exchange that was doing all kinds of random crap in the background, and that caused this huge, massive losses for the people. So did the regulations actually do anything at all? And then you bring up Terra Luna, which, yes, that was completely deregulated. That was not regulated at all. So I'm not really sure, but your point where even when you try to regulate, they're always 2 or 3 years behind, so they can't even catch up. So they don't even do a good job regulating. So what are your recommendations there? Do you think something like DeFi should continue as it is, which is essentially self-regulated, is regulated by the participants themselves? Or is there a need for government to step in, despite not being able to do a good job?
That's a very tough question, to be honest, because I feel like human beings, it's back to a question of, I think the first principle is whether human beings want to take responsibility for their own life. And it is very let me take a step back and talk about philosophy in general first. So the simple question of, do we see ourselves as owning our life, or do we see ourselves as a victim? Yeah, and not everyone wants to take ownership of their finances, of their life in general, and I think that is perfectly okay. It depends on the individual, right? But the individual must have self-awareness. So for example, there's no point in an individual wanting to say do self-custody of the tokens or whatever, and then forget the password, and then say crypto is a scam. Not password, sorry, seed phrase. I mean, there are a lot of such people, right? So and don't get me wrong, I am a forgetful person at the start of my journey. I lost 3 wallets in my whole entire life, which is like what WTF, right? Yeah. So I do understand the feeling of losing wallets, but at the end of the day, to the question of whether more regulation is needed or not, I think it really depends on the individual. So I can't really answer that question in a sense. Yeah.
Okay, you don't get in trouble either. Okay, so you have recently, I believe Ikigai is something new. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. Happy to. So, Ikigai is actually not really new. In 2014, when I read the Bitcoin white paper, in the same year, there was an event called Slush. Slush is a startup event. So they do a startup conference promoting new startup projects in Finland. So in 2014 was the first year. So as a poor student, right, as a dumb, really stupid, really kind of antisocial Singaporean there, right, I spent my entire summer in the library, where in Finland, Europe, people were like, going parties, summer parties, going out because the sun finally was in the library. So I did not know that all my classmates, literally all my classmates, went to volunteer at Slush, which is in December. So when I found out there's a thing called Slush and everyone was there, it was November, and I asked, can I volunteer? He said, no, you can't. It's closed already. You volunteered the whole summer. So I thought to myself, I was doing a master's in communication then. So I went to tell the Slush people, hey, I'm from Singapore. Let me represent Singapore as a media from Southeast Asia, and I'll cover your startup. So because of that, I started Ikigai as a media company.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. That was 2014. Then I realized, oh, this is so interesting, right? So 2017, we pivoted to start up doing cryptocurrency projects because that's where the money is. So we pivoted in 2017, and since then we have been doing like AI, metaverse, and cryptocurrency niches. And I see 2001 this year and next year as like very huge opportunity for a lot of masses, retail investors to have at least $1 million in their bank if they cash out properly. So I want to make use of this opportunity to help more people get additional income at least, and at best, or the best case scenario, to have financial independence and freedom. So I think we can make it happen in this bull market. So that is why we are focusing on crypto.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, you see a bull market coming, and you believe that lots of people, it's an opportunity for lots of people to actually take advantage and generate some real returns. Now, for somebody, I want to disclaimer right now, none of this is financial advice, and should always do your own research. But okay, let's have an open discussion about this. How would you advise somebody who's completely new to crypto? No idea. I heard about Bitcoin. I hear them talking all day long about it, but I have never tried it before. What would you recommend as a first step to learn about the industry?
Okay. Firstly, always start small. Give an example. Because of how public I am with my own beliefs on open source and like Bitcoin and Ether, right? People like to privately message me and ask me like, hey, should I buy Bitcoin? Then my answer is, please do not buy Bitcoin. Because why are you asking me whether you should buy Bitcoin? What has it got to do with me, right? Like, you earn money, you also, I don't get a cut. If you lose money, it's my fault, right? So why do I answer this? Okay, so I have enough data points, right? People who ask that, the next day, after I tell them, please do not buy, if you're asking me, then don't buy. Next day, they went to buy $10,000 of Bitcoin. I have enough data points of that. Happens so many times. I tell people don't buy, then the next day they go and buy. Yeah, so which is very annoying. Like, I'm like, what am I? So I think the main point here is always start small. The thing is that start with $50, and now there are a lot of like exchanges with referral system. So let's say you use your friend's referral link, you get $10, your friend get $10. So if you start with $50 and then with the referral money, excuse me, then at least it's $40 capital, right? So if you gain something, it won't be a lot, but if you lose something, you will lose everything. So start small with Bitcoin. Bitcoin has lasted through more than 10 years, so it's pretty stable. And see how you feel about it for 1 month. Like, if you want to start tomorrow, it's great, because this is the best time to start now, where you still have the Bitcoin ETF movement. You have CZ probably going to jail Binance XCOCZ. 23rd of February, the judgment will be out. And then before halving, there will be some kind of like correction. Your Japan interest rate is correcting also. Then that will be a risk on, risk off event. So a lot of price movement to Bitcoin to monitor. So it's great because you can spend 1 month and monitoring how you feel about the price movement. So if you're okay with that, then maybe increase. If you're not okay with that and you feel like it's very stressful, then basically you can choose not to buy. It's fine. So I think, however, it is on the other hand, I would like to encourage. Oh, should not say this. Okay, because not financial advice. In my opinion, I think this is really a good opportunity to be able to get a lot of people out of the current financial system, because I think opportunities like that don't really come very often, especially now when institutions are really buying Bitcoin. So we might not even get a chance as retail investors to buy in future. So
I see.
Good question. So if I go back a little bit, you live through a different bear bull market. So it would be great to hear some of your experience with maybe a story about how some people invested during the bull market and mashallah how they became successful with the investment, and also share with us, because we are the type of people who are building. We've been building in the bear market, and that was great because all the nonsense builders were gone. So we were only dealing with serious people for the past year and a half now, which was great. Serious people, and of course, you're going to hear all these kind of nonsensical projects, nonsensical founders coming up with the weirdest ideas just to take advantage of this bull market. So first of all, how do you avoid those people? And second of all, where did you see this coming from your experience, some of the great startups that make it and made the people wealthier at the time? That would be great to kind of mimic for the coming bull run.
got it. Okay, thanks for the question. For the first question, recently there was this Netflix movie called Bitcoin, featuring this project called Centra. Centra is built in the bull market of 2017. Sorry, I'm coughing so much because I think I have long COVID. So in Centra project, right, they built it in the bull market of 2017. They basically copied the entire 10x white paper and they copied everything. They faked their whole team. So the CEO wasn't even real. And when a media called them out saying that the CEO wasn't even a real person, they basically said the CEO died and replaced it with another CEO who is the COO's grandfather. So how do we avoid nonsense people? I think it's important to do due diligence. Having said that, it's more difficult for the average retail investors to actually take time to settle down and do due diligence, because in a bull market, I think euphoria is very high. So when good Web3 marketers, or no, not say good, when skilled Web3 marketers want to get people to buy their tokens, they make use of the fear of missing out. So basically the rhetoric will be something like, if you don't buy this, you will not get a chance again. So people would just buy something out of some fear and response. And I think even influencers make mistakes sometimes. So it is really important for the end user really to do research. So the next question is, what kind of framework should they be using? I think looking at the VCs is very important, because I think when we look at VCs, there's some assurance that the VCs already did some sort of due diligence. Then after that, take a look at the use cases. Of course, use cases, when we talk about it, is very loosely used. So a lot of people think that use cases is for business. But come to think of it, right, when you go back to verifiable data, the use cases of Web3/cryptocurrency/blockchain by actual small and medium-sized business is not very huge. By MNC, maybe more, because more and more MNCs or bigger companies that are exploring the use cases of these technologies. So who are those people who are actually driving the price up, apart from the VC pumping money and market making, right? It's actually the speculators and the gamblers. And in other words, these people are using it for DeFi purposes or gambling purposes in speculation. So in another word, flipping purposes. So I think L1 and L2 projects do very good in this regard when it comes to flipping. So I think it's good to always go back to first principles to see what drives the demand of the tokens and what drives the price of the token in terms of market making. So these two, I think, if the framework, whatever framework you're using, includes these two aspects, I think the price action should be relatively safe. And this is the personal opinion. So I absolutely agree with you, Morad, that in the bear market, it is easier to build. We have also built some stuff in the bear market because at least when we meet up with people, you know that they have some long-term interest and motivation in the industry, not motivated just by just money and things like that. So I did enjoy last year because last year there were a lot of very sincere conversations. People were building a lot of tech, a lot of very interesting perspective. So I could identify with it. I guess the best innovation really comes when like-minded people come together and discuss ideas and choose to do things together. Yeah.
So yeah, and also money could be a curse for a company as well. Too much of the money is never a good thing. That's my thing. And when you build during the bear market, you kind of bootstrap. You try to really, think about, economical model for your startup to be sustainable and so on and so forth, and build proper technology. Now, full on the question, the call I receive, as you can imagine, we are in a space, so a lot of people, newbies and stuff like that, or people who are jumping into that space, first thing they ask you, which currency should I invest in or whatever. As you mentioned, I'm not here to give investment advice, but I myself personally stay with cryptocurrency that are very stable, or I would say that have been here for some times. The like of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then the people are jumping and they're like, yeah, but I cannot make a big upside anymore with this type of currency. So they are looking at the altcoin and say, oh, I'm looking at this project and I want a 10x return on my little amount of money. So this is the greediness of the human being trying to capitalize and try to really make it big fast, which is not something that I believe in. You have to be steady and and do small bet with something that. What is your experience on the? So you have this big bull of amount. I mean, this huge amount of people who are driving the market in the wrong way, I would say, and inflating nonsensical altcoins, for example, as well.
That's really interesting. I think what goes up quick comes down really quick as well. So if they can tolerate this volatility, I think that's good for them. I guess when it comes to meme coin, I think meme coins are already a category of its own, like bonk. Recently I had a Bitcoin maximalist friend. So throughout his whole life, he just buy Bitcoin. He buys Bitcoin, Link, Crypto.com token Chronos. And recently he told me he started to buy bonk. So I was thinking, why is he buying bonk? No, I think whatever makes them happy, but they have to know the consequences of buying meme coin, that what goes up fast will come down fast. Having said that, that's a very interesting point, by the way. I have very idealistic friends, Bitcoin maximalists, who scolded me for buying Luna Classic. So when Luna dropped, right, when it's like almost at the bottom, I bought Luna Classic. So I got scolded by my friend for doing that. He says that I should not do that because ideologically it is very bad for the ecosystem because he felt that I was helping scammers by supporting a failed project.
You actually mentioned something earlier. You said that some of the founders, they don't even know. I mean, they're sincere and they don't even know that their projects are actually rugs and they are actually Ponzi's. Can you elaborate on that? Because I found that very curious. Most people, when you think, people are trying to execute some kind of scam or rug pull, you think it's deliberate, it's intentional. So,
Yeah. Oh, okay. So basically, the I think there's a thin line between incompetence and like intention. But at the end of the day, whether a person is incompetent or intend to rug or not, the people who are holding the bags are retail investors. So for example, there's this very popular narrative because just now Maura also talked about sustainability, right? So it is very popular method for Web3 founders to get the revenue in through Web2 means. So for instance, I have this Web2 product that totally don't need blockchain, don't need Web3, don't need NFT. But this project that gives me a lot of revenue, right? But I also because I believe that Web3 is the next thing, the new thing in whatever, right? So I want a Web3 project and I have an NFT collection. So assuming you have a Web2 and a Web3 arm, right? Going in tandem. So founders who can do Web2 project are not necessarily founders who can do Web3 project. But because of their own selfishness, in my opinion, they want to do both. So after they launch the Web3 project, the NFT price might drop from like 0.222 to like 0.001 something. Real life experience, by the way, I do hold the NFT. I'm still holding the NFT. And based on this verifiable data, right, that you can go OpenSea and check, right, it's very hard to convince me that this is not a rug project. Because if you go into the community is non-existent already, like very quiet and things like that. People left. And the founders are still there and fully doxed, by the way. So they think to themselves that, hey, I'm fully doxed, I'm doing my best, I bring revenue for the company, yes, through the Web2 arm, right? This is definitely not a rug project because, see, I'm doxed, I'm doing my best, and there's revenue. But to me, it's a rug project because my NFT, I'm left back holding as a end user who supported the project because I believe in their vision, and they just let the whole community down. So back to the question, Shireen, about I think my point was that the most dangerous founders are founders who are deluded and they think they are doing their best, right? But no, everyone is suffering because of them. The end user, the NFT holder are doing that. So the thing is, my suggestion is, why not just shut down the whole Web3 project? Say that you're a Web2 project, do your own Web2 thing, we have your own blessing, we give you a blessing, just refund the whole community. And everyone is happy, right? So the next question is, why do they not want to do the refund? So if they can answer it with a clear conscience about why do they not do a refund when clearly they're rugging the whole community in a verifiable manner, it's not even a subjective opinion, then we get the answer of, are they really in the best conscience doing the best for the community, or are they putting their own benefit first? Yeah.
I wanted to ask to follow. I mean, to just say something along this line. When founders when people actually want to build a company, especially when it was during the Web2 era, okay, you see all these very, very amazing founders making the front page of Fortune 500. You see on the startup media news successful story. Of course, you don't hear about the bad and the failures and stuff like that. Then you have this very young wannabe founders or entrepreneur looking forward to become one of those successful founders. Given that half of the jail row now would be like Web3 founders like CZ and Sandman Man in jail, it doesn't motivate me as a builder or founder of a Web3 project. It seems that you have the jail space would be full of those founders building on Web3. How do you reconcile with that? Like, why should I become a founder of a Web3 project and the odds of me being in in jail, it's could be could be happening.
Ah, oh, that's an interesting observation because I think, this personal opinion, oh no, you have a lot of BNB holders because I don't want to be harassed. But I would still say my real opinion, okay? I think it could be CZ's way of exiting the market. Okay, so for example, assuming that BUSD has undergone a lot of market making, BUSD and our BNB token, let's say there are a lot of market making going on.
We'll be right back after the break.
We believe that the financial system is broken and that our banks and insurance companies don't have our best interests at heart. We've built Takadao to help us get together as a community to save, earn, and access credit. Join us today and discover how you can grow your savings while helping others.
Going on. And number one, CZ does not have to admit to money laundering. It is in general, I think nobody wants to end their career in Binance, like such a great company, on that note, and taint the name of cryptocurrency with. And CZ is a very strategic person. I've read his entire manifesto to his company. He wrote this manifesto for his own internal staff. And actually, I read it because my friend did the internal stuff, but so I'm not supposed to read it. But after that, 1 month later, he put it out in public so that everyone can learn. He's someone who is very strategic. So I believe these steps of admitting guilt and going to jail is a strategic step for him as well. And think about it. If let's say the maximum jail sentence he would get is 1.5 years, according to the CoinDesk report. So if I were to save my baby, which is Binance, a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of resources by admitting guilt and using maximum 1.5 years of my life, and potentially giving myself a way to exit the industry and to absolve myself from any blame thereafter, because I already stepped down, I already went to jail, I already paid my dues, right? I don't think it's a bad deal. So actually,
In
I
your
think
opinion?
it's a very good deal. Like basically, in his career, it was illustrious. He helped a lot of people. He made a lot of innovation. Binance is suspicious, yes. But I think overall, it's good for the industry because he did a lot of experiments and he
Yeah.
made a lot of things possible.
So, which is so the good advice you will give to a young entrepreneur who wants to build on the Web3, you have to also have like in a monopoly game, the place where you have the jail place that most likely you could end up in jails as well. You know, that's what you want to say. So you start your Web3 fund, just
Okay,
you
let
have
me.
potentially you might end up in jail. Is that okay
Yeah.
with you? That's what you want to say.
Uh,
Very very motivating, by the way. I just want to
let me rephrase a bit, okay? I do want to say that the main message is like that, but I think people who want to do very big things, like super big things in Web3, they are not conventional. Another person who went to jail is Roger Ver, Bitcoin Cash. I met him before, interviewed him before, and he just don't care. His thinking is like, what's the big thing? What's the big deal about jail? Like the institution anyway. This is what Roger Ver thinks, right? So, and he's like, he created Bitcoin Cash and with Ujihan, the kind of thing. So I think people who admit guilt to go to jail as a Web3 founder, they are really not the typical thinking person. They think in another way and they have this attitude of the institution, I just do whatever I want. I think I'm correct. I'm here to bring back power to the people. They probably think like that.
Okay, I got you. So guys, listener, join the Web3 space, build the company. Don't forget, you might do few
Might go to
weeks
jail.
there. Yeah, it's fine. You come out shiner, better, brighter, and richer.
And maybe Netflix will make a documentary about you. Okay, I'm not saying it's
Yeah, we
healthy.
could. Yeah,
I'm not saying it's healthy
We
in
could
any
end up
way.
there.
But if you are this type of profile and it's a career path for sure. But it may or may not be healthy. It may or may not be moral. I don't fully subscribe to it, obviously. But if that is your path, Web3 may not be a bad place for you. Yeah.
Yeah. So and then she added up perfectly. So if you don't make any money with your own Web3 startup, do not worry. You might be on Netflix, or you can write a book about your story and become a billionaire. Secondary market. Look at it in the bright way. So let's move on, Sharon.
Sure, sure.
So Wan Wei, there's two things in my mind that popped up actually. Okay, the first is I want you to unpack a little bit more about this CZ thing. I get the point, but my question is, why would he want to exit the market? Do you think that there really is something with Binance that's going to be uncovered over the next, I guess, couple of months, where he's like, okay, I better insulate myself and protect myself now?
I think there might be, because to me, BNB has never been natural in terms of price movement, to be honest. And this is documented. If you go to Twitter, right, the transaction of BNB from, I think, last 2 Decembers ago to today has never been natural. There's definitely manipulation going on, as with other cryptocurrencies. And this thing about Binance Launchpad has always not been natural as well in terms of market making or price manipulation. So the extent of not natural transactions going on in Binance, I think, is not little. So to have the option of an exit and not having anyone blame him for whatever that happened in Binance is very smart, as compared to someone like Sam Bankman-Fried from FTX. If you compare the two founders, I mean, one is the largest crypto exchange, the other is second or third largest, right? You compare their endings and the potential that how much time must they spend in jail, right? I think it's a very big difference. One could get off with maximum 1.5 years. The other will probably be in there for 100 plus years. And that's the maximum, right? Of course, they have money, they have the network, but I think Sam will definitely go to jail, as compared to CZ, who whether going to jail or not is still a question mark. Interestingly, before this call, I met two other crypto guys in the office, right? And I was talking to them about this. They do not even think CZ will go to jail because he pled guilty and he paid the fine. So CZ is really a very strategic and smart leader, I would say, and for that I do give him credits for it.
Yeah. So the fact that he's willing to take the step is a big red flag that something is going to happen with Binance. Otherwise, why the exit strategy this early in the game? The other question I have then that came up from the conversation is, we spent a lot of time talking about rug pulls and scams and how do you evaluate, essentially altcoins and meme coins, etc. This is all bad news. So why are you still in this industry, and why do you still say that people should exit the traditional financial industry and come into this very, very dangerous world?
That's a very good question because fundamentally I support open source. I'm a very open source person. Like, for instance, even the way I do things, right, I realize that if people want to come to me for knowledge, like, hey, Wan Wei, how do you fix this piece of clothing, for example, or how do you get from point A to point B, I will go all the way to write out the steps for them, and with the hope that they can pay it forward. So I think blockchain industry, Web3 industry as a whole, in this space, that is a spirit of open source. Let's not talk about non-tech first. Developer community, when you go to GitHub, you can basically fork the whole blockchain. And if you have marketing skill sets yourself, you can do your own project. And I think I want to push that more. Of course, the reality today is that it is still very casino based, a lot of speculation, a lot of gambling going on. And in other words, very extrinsically driven in terms of motivation. Not a lot of people come into this space for intrinsic motivation, like, hey, I want to promote open source or things like that. But I think fundamentally, the thing I want to push is a more inclusive world, not just in terms of resources, but in terms of knowledge. Because another thing that is outside of blockchain that is interweaving our new world, right, is AI, generative AI, right? Generative AI will be a great knowledge equalizer. So if it can be paired with open source ideology, I think we can move very far. Open source, not just in blockchain, but in metaverse spaces as well. It will lead to a more inclusive world. And I envision the kind of inclusive world. I want to move towards it. So the whole plan of Ikigai does not end after the bull market, because in my mind, the cycle will be 2024, 2025, right? The question is, what do we do after 2025? And the answer is, we will then move into AI and metaverse with the new technology that come out in 2025. And then we will build communities all over the world in a decentralized manner. So that's the angle for Ikigai. So what do I do meanwhile the bull market? Is actually to build up community and resources for the end.
Yeah, it's very amazing what you just said, because it's really a long way, and when you look at it, when you enter the industry, it's really for a vision and making things better, and we know that the underlying technology, it's amazing, not only for the individual but for everything, the institutions and everything, even at the government level. It helps a lot, structure things and everything. And this notion of also of a kind of owning and decentralized, everything can be built in this technology and stuff like that. I'm dreaming about a decentralized Twitter, decentralized Google, decentralized all this technology can actually becoming part of the future of Web3, and the ownership of tokenization of assets, being able to finally make money out of little that you have. You have land that doesn't produce much, can be also used to be a source of income and wealth for you, especially in Africa, where people have land and they don't have cash. So this is all the beautiful things and inclusivity, inclusion. But unfortunately, as you mentioned, there's a lot of opportunistic players, people who want to come, cash out and cash in, cash out quickly. They're really pestifering our industry, to be honest. And that's why I was so happy to be in the building in the bear market, because I could see and talk to amazing people trying to really build things that are stable. Yeah, so I echo that with you, and true believer of this new technology.
There's one last question that I want to ask you, and that's about community. Now, you've mentioned multiple times, there's this need to build community. I think that the thing that is most different between the traditional world, whether it's, let's say, Web 2 versus Web 3, or it's TradFi versus DeFi, is this element of community. Now, the question then is why and how? Why is community such a focal point in Web 3 and even the crypto world?
Okay, that's a good question. Define community as everyone in the particular community having the same mission together. Define as doing something that is bigger than yourself. That's my definition. So, and the motivation is intrinsic. So, meaning that you do not join a community because of some airdrop or token or whatever. That's extrinsic, right? But because internally you really want something to happen. That something could be like, say, love towards Kingdom of Saudi Arabia community to promote how great KSA is. The community can be something like, we want to find out the best food in Singapore. So the people who are foodies, who love food, will come to this community. So in the Web3 space, right, developer communities are pretty much, I think, open source. They are very open to sharing. So for example, if I have a problem with my code, people will basically, I can just post it online, and then people will come to my help and say, oh, this line is wrong. I tried it before, by the way, because I'm quite a noob at coding. So I'll just post, why can't I replicate this thing on my Facebook, screenshot, and within 5 minutes, I'll get like 10 replies of developers who are super willing to help me solve this thing. This open source, right? So in blockchain space for developer side, there is this willingness to give and take and give back to the ecosystem. When you talk about say the trading side, I think it's the same thing as well. People are in there to trade properly, to realize profits, or to do a proper setup of the trade, whether it's long or short. So in this kind of community, you have the beauty of people who are willing to help each other out. So I think the difference between traditional world and this kind of Web3 community building is truly how people are motivated by the same kind of energy and intrinsic motivation to help each other out. And think about it ultimately, right? Be it Bitcoin or money, fiat money as a, let me take out my fiat money, okay? Singapore dollar. I always say, right, Singapore, I'm not sure KSA dollar, there's this line. Singapore dollar, there's this line. This note is legal tender, right? So the thing is that this note legal tender basically means that, it's backed by the government, whatever you may take it to mean. But ultimately, money is just a number. And now with everything digital, it's just a number you see on your phone, right? It's real and tangible. In earthquake, when let's say a natural disaster, earthquake, war, geopolitical tension, is community. You want people who have no biological ties to you to help you out when there's a natural disaster, when something bad happens to you or your loved one. And that is community. So the true security moving forward is not in money, it's not in Bitcoin even, it's not in anything digital, right? Because digital is digital after all. It's in the real human being, it's in the connection and relationship you build. So to me, that's true security. And moving forward, I want to build that. And what better way to build that than in Web3? Because Web3, the vibe and the kind of atmosphere is very tribal. So since I have the benefit of being in this space now, I might as well push open source all the way and continue to build my communities in that direction. So that's my thinking.
Yeah, that is a very good answer. I think I share that belief greatly, and it's one of the sort of the founding story of how we came to found Takadao and Takashore, which is the insurance DAO, is because a friend of mine had a death in the family, and eventually it was the community who stepped in to help her. As you said, when the poop hits the fan, and nobody is there for you, and you have nothing, who is there to help you? And in this particular case, it was the community, and that was an extremely powerful lesson for me, that it's not the government, it's not the banks, it's not the insurance company, it's the community. So how can you now build this community that will be there and will be there financially as well for you when you need? And that's really why we're doing what we're doing. So this is thank you so much for this I guess this explanation of what community means in the context of Web3. Mora, do you have any questions before we wrap up?
No, I just want to hear, what she's working on and helping us out, and our community reaching out to what she does, and looking forward to, supporting any great initiative with her.
Okay,
Yeah, so some final words from your side, Wan Wei. Tell us a little bit more about what you do, how people can reach out to you. Don't ask her if you should buy Bitcoin, and how they can find you.
Yeah, sure. I have an open source book on NFT that I feel like most people should read before they start to play NFT for whatever reason, because a lot of people got scammed. I wrote the book because people were texting me about should they buy the NFT? Why after they send the money they don't get the NFT, things like that. Scam. So because of a lot of scam, I wrote the book. So the book is free for download. I can give you the link. So go and download and read it. Ikigai, fundamentally, we are moving towards new technologies, emerging technologies, and we hope that people have literacy over these new technologies. I personally believe also we haven't seen any the technology that really will revolutionize our world. We haven't seen it yet. I believe we will see it in 2025. And it will definitely be something to do with AI. Whether it's general artificial intelligence or not, I do not know. But I think in the new decade, we will be seeing a war of who owns the most powerful AI. So since that is already a given, I think my own mission in Ikigai is to prepare and equip as many people as possible for this kind of new reality. So we are moving in that direction. We'll continue to build our community in the sense that whatever our people need, we will equip them with the knowledge as best as possible, and we will scale up the knowledge as best as possible. So we will do our best in that. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
You're most welcome. So how can people reach out to you? Or where can they go to follow you?
ikigai.com, or you can contact with me on LinkedIn at Wan Wei, or just contact with me on LinkedIn at Wan Wei. Yes.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Wan Wei, for coming
Yeah.
on.
So it's a one-way communication anyway with one way on LinkedIn. Okay.
Yes.